Welcome to this explainer. Think about this for a second. Over 100 million people, an entire nation, its economy, its culture, literally all dictated by one single narrow river. I mean, without the Nile, modern Egypt simply wouldn't exist. So let's jump right in and visually unpack how this one geographic marvel completely transformed a sea of sand into one of the world's most enduring civilizations.
You know, it's wild, but if you look at it from space, Egypt looks almost completely empty. It's just endless desert stretching out in absolutely every direction. But at night, this really stark, fascinating pattern emerges. The country is essentially this dark sea of sand, but it's pierced by one vibrant, electric ribbon of light. It's literally an entire nation clinging to a single, thin, blue line.
Section 1. The Thin Blue Line. Let's establish exactly what it is we're looking at here.
95%. Even though Egypt is actually one of Africa's largest countries by landmass, a staggering 95% of it is totally uninhabitable desert. So almost all of the country's fertile land, and practically its entire population, exists strictly right beside the water. And down at ground level, the contrast is honestly jarring. I mean, you can literally stand with one foot in the rich, black soil of the Nile and plant the other foot right in the lifeless, rainless wasteland of the Sahara. There's no gradual fade, no transition zone. It is an immediate, razor-sharp boundary between a lush, life-giving environment and, well, total desolation.
Section 2. The Gift of the Nile.
So for over 5,000 years, this river offered early human civilizations a setup they just couldn't refuse. Obviously, they settled here for the reliable drinking water, but nature provided so much more than just a drink. The annual floods deposited this incredibly rich black soil, basically creating a farmer's paradise right out of the sand. Plus, the river acted as this massive, natural, prehistoric highway. It linked villages through trade long before actual roads were even a concept.
Section 3. Engineering the river. Because as populations grew, relying on unpredictable seasons was pretty quickly no longer an option. Over time, we transitioned from just sort of surviving off natural seasonal floods to actually digging thousands of irrigation canals centuries ago. But the ultimate control, that really came in the 1960s with the construction of the Aswan High Dam. It completely stopped the seasonal floods, pumped out massive amounts of hydroelectric power, and created Lake Nasser. And this was a huge game changer, giving Egypt the power to farm year-round and actually store precious water for the dry years.
Section 4. A ribbon of 100 million. Now, as Egypt's population just absolutely exploded, practically every major city naturally expanded right along this exact same river valley. And why? Well, because that's where the water is, right? It's where the farms are, it's where the jobs are. So naturally, the roads and railways just followed suit. The result is that it essentially turned the Nile into this one giant 100 million person traffic jam, stretching all the way from Aswan up to Cairo. Egyptians aren't living in a straight line just for the fun of it. They do it because nature gives them absolutely no other choice.
Section 5. Escaping the Valley. Because to relieve this intense overcrowding, Egypt is now attempting what might be the ultimate geographic challenge.
Seriously, I want you to just imagine the sheer logistical nightmare of moving millions of people deep into a totally lifeless desert. These new megaprojects like the new administrative capital, they require completely new infrastructure built entirely from the sand up. We are talking massive, incredibly expensive water pipelines, advanced desalination plants, and ridiculously heavy electrical grids. Out there in the deep desert, not a single drop of water occurs naturally. Every single ounce literally has to be engineered and transported. It is mind-boggling.
Section 6. Threats to the lifeline.
So today, there's this vise of compounding pressures really closing in on the river. If we look internally, a population exploding way past 100 million demands a lot more water, especially when you're trying to supply those new deep desert megacities we just talked about. And then externally, a shifting global climate threatens historical weather patterns, while at the exact same time, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam sits right upstream. It puts Egypt in a position where they're walking a really delicate tightrope, navigating skyrocketing internal demand right alongside shifting geopolitical realities.
I want to leave you with this thought to ponder. For over 5,000 years, the Nile has literally transformed a sea of desert into one of the world's greatest, most resilient civilizations. But as the climate alters, as populations boom, and as borders shift, can a single river really continue to sustain 100 million lives in a rapidly changing world? It is a geographical tightrope that's going to be absolutely fascinating to watch unfold. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.